Hello, I'm Dr. Kim Duramo. I'm really excited to be here with Dr. Mario Martinez to share some of his wisdom and insight. He is a neuropsychologist who's written several books about kind of the science behind mind-body medicine and the science behind how we heal. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a physician who's been more clinically teaching the tools of self-healing and really how to navigate this mind-body journey for awakening and healing of any chronic illness. One of the things I've seen in studying this for decades and decades myself, there's a lot of awesome science. And then I kind of wanted to put together in my book and in my work, well, what do I do with it? You know, how to, and here's how to implement this. And I think what Mario has done with his work is kind of both. There's the science as a clinical cognitive neurologist, or I think it's clinical neurologist, psychoneurologist.
Oh, psychoneurobiology.
And then also the how-to and the tools. And I just really think his work is brilliant, and he's a beautiful person. So I was excited to meet him and share his work with you. So he's at biocognitive.com, and he's going to share with us just some of the understanding of how the mind and body are connected and how to ignite self-healing. So why don't you just share a little bit about like how you got into this work first, because I want to dig into the meat of what we want to share as well. But you know, what's your background of how you came to be doing this amazing work?
Okay, I was trained as a clinical neuropsychologist, and as I'm sure you were trained, there was a lot of thinking about the reductionist science, that you have to go to the cell, you have to go, and then missing out on the total, what I call the bioinformational field. So I was not happy with that, and I started studying centenarians, people who are over 100, who are healthy. And I thought, okay, it's got to be the genes and even the Methuselah gene that they talk about. And after hundreds of centenarians all over the world, I found out that genetics is only 20%. That is how they live and how they view the world. And then I was fortunate enough to find Dr. George Solomon. He became my mentor. He was the one who founded psychoneuroimmunology. He first called it psychoimmunology, and they almost laughed him out of UCLA because they said, how dare you say that psychological processes can affect the immune system? Well, later, they found that not only the immune system, but the nervous and the endocrine, so they called it psychoneuroimmunology. And that's where it all started. And I started looking at that there's also something missing there, because psychoneuroimmunology is not the same everywhere. So what I did is I then created cultural psychoneuroimmunology, which brings anthropology, neuroscience, medicine, and everything together. And it looks at how cultures shape your reality. So the culture is a way of, it's like a fabric around the world, and then you see the fabric. And the culture is everything that's important for a person. For example, ethics, aesthetics, a sense of well-being, longevity, middle age, all those things are culturally determined to a certain degree. And then the biology follows.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about it that because if you talk about, okay, how can a thought affect a cell? How can a thought affect an organ? Or it's very difficult to explain it. But what I do is I go back to the developmental component of it. So we're Homo sapiens. We've been around for 150,000 years. And before we had language, we had just grunts, and we had epigenetics and things that were just shaping us. So we would respond to things based on what we saw, what we smell, all the senses. But then about 50,000 years ago, language comes in and consciousness comes in. So now epigenetics is not just by the senses, but epigenetics is also by the language and by the symbols that we create. So we're designed to pay attention to what I call the culture editors, which are people that are important in our lives, people that the culture designs and makes them have a placebo nocebo effect. Doctors in the hospital, teachers at work, at classrooms. So the moment we're born, we know the reflex. We know how to go to the breast or the bottle. So we pay attention to that, and we have no language. We have a neuroimmunoendocrinology at the time. We don't have any psycho, but you go there and you're hungry and you cry, and then you go to the breast and you satiate and you're happy. That's wonderful. Then later the language comes, you say, oh, so this is the breast, so this is the mother. At that moment, it becomes biosymbolic, because you already have the physiology, and you bring a symbol to it, the symbol comes in as a bioinformation, and then mother has a biosymbol. So then mother says to you, how you're a bad little boy, you're a bad little girl. They shame you, you have inflammation because the words become a powerful effect. And we know that from psychoneurobiology. When you shame somebody, you have inflammatory molecules. You have a tumor necrosis factor and some interleukins. Why? Because it's a bioinformational field, no longer just biology, but bioinformation. So that's
Yeah,
basically,
I think what you're pointing to, what I always call them paradigms, like we have a paradigm of reality, like this is what's true and this is who I am and this is what I
yes,
can and cannot do. And when you say cultural editors, I think that's a brilliant way for us to understand, like, oh, who have I given the editorial right to? Like, oh, it's what the doctor says is true. It's what my mother says it's true. It's who society tells me I am, that they're like the editors determining who I get to be or how free I get to be, how much money I get to have, or like the paradigm that I'm living in. And for most people, it's totally unconscious. They don't
yes,
realize they've given away this editorial power or that they're living in a cultural reality. They just think, well, that's just how life is.
that's right. And to the to kind of describe that, I'd like to use imagery. The culture is the fishbowl effect. The goldfish is in the fishbowl, but they don't know that there's anything beyond. That's it. That's life. They can't go on beyond. So that's what we live in, that fishbowl, and we don't realize that a lot of things are determined by the culture, as you said. The culture editors shaping you into being this and that, and then they create horizons of reality, and those horizons of reality go at the cultural level or at the personal level. Of course, they interact. But let me give you an example how cultures have these horizons. When the train was invented, the fastest thing on earth for a human being was to get on a horse, 25 miles. You can't. That's it. Trains could go up to 40 miles. That's breaking the horizons of reality. So people were developing rail back disorder. And then the doctors are saying, well, this is how it is. The physiology is made to go up to 25 miles an hour. You go more, and then that's going to happen. So people were having rail back disorder.
What was the real back? Was like
Rail
a
back disorder. And you go to that, oh, you've been on a train, rail back disorder. That's what's going on. So as the cultures acculturate, as they desensitize, who's got rail back disorders? Now a plane goes 600 miles, but when they first started, also Otis is really important. When Otis invented the elevator, how dare you go from one floor to the other without the stairs? Nosebleeds. People were having nosebleeds. So it's the horizons adjustments. So who has nosebleeds now? And then the latest, or next to the latest, is the airplane. In the 50s, it became commercial. So the flight attendants had to be nurses because that's a serious thing. And you had to have a vomit bag. How many people vomit now? I use it to make notes for my lectures when I'm flying. So
Yeah, I never thought about that. I never realized that because of our belief that we can't go this fast, we can only go this fast, that the body, of course, makes sense, would react in a not harmonious way. Now that you start breaking that barrier of how fast we can go. And then we need to adjust to the new belief. Oh, it's normal to go this fast on a plane. It's not going to harm you. And now people don't have really symptoms for the
that's right.
most part. When we get on a plane or go up in an elevator, your physiology is adjusted to the understanding that it's normal to go up and down on the elevator, so we don't have problems. Well, I think it's fascinating how you've applied this now for health. And what I'm doing in my work is about people who are experiencing symptoms and people who are having disease, and how we can get a handle on this physiologic adjustment point, or like the leverage, which we've seen that the psychoneuroimmunologic endocrine system is all one, that every cell in your body is listening to the thoughts, the beliefs, the perspectives you have, and that this gives us a massive leverage point on adjusting and harmonizing all of our physiology, all of our genetics, all of everything going on in every system in our body. So what would you say is the best way to tap into that leverage and begin to make change?
Well, yes, that's really great. And I'm glad that you're doing this work. Being a physician, it's really important because you have the physiology, the biochemistry and all that. But if you look at epigenetics can tell us a lot. Epigenetics, for your audience, is really something above genetics. It was thought that you can only transfer information through DNA, and that it takes millions of years. Well, about 100 years ago, it's found that the environment can affect gene expression. And not only that, but it can pass it on from generation to generation. So a rat, you give one rat lithium, and they get very sick. Then they go to the other rat, and they kind of groom and they connect with each other. After that, neither of those rats will eat lithium again, nor their pups. So it's a phylogenetic epigenetic transfer. But
It's a transmission of consciousness that this mouse understands, no, don't do this. It's a bad thing. And the other mouse picks up that awareness.
That's right. So for them, it's the olfactory lobe. But for us, we lost that. We don't have to smell a lion anymore. We can say there's a lion over there. So our language becomes epigenetically affecting then. So then, how does it happen? People who were at Auschwitz and during the concentration camp, obviously their cortisol level was a lot higher because they're going to get killed. They passed that base cortisol level for 3 generations.
Yeah.
But that's a propensity for expression of the genes. That's where we come in. We can change that. I worked with a kid who was about 17, third generation Jewish, great grandparents, and he had high cortisol and couldn't understand what was going on. He's just a normal guy. And so we worked with that, with the epigenetic component, and started working with some techniques that I use and all that. And things, then what happens is you begin to cap that potential for genetic expression. So the idea is to, even if you have family illness, it's a propensity, not a genetic sentencing. And then what I do is, for example, let's say that somebody has type 2 diabetes, potential in the family. The helplessness that you create is, well, everybody's got type 2 diabetes. You go to the doctor, yep, type 2 diabetes. So, most likely you're going to get it. So you create a helplessness, a bioinformational immunological helplessness, not only that puts you into the frame of this is going to happen, so I might as well eat whatever I want, but that helplessness creates inflammation, and inflammation can actually trigger epigenetic transfers to open up. So it is a self-fulfilling prophecy then. So what one of the things that I do is, and well that you can't teach this intellectually. You can't say, well, look, it's okay. It doesn't work that way. Otherwise, if you're depressed, I would say, hey, look, what a pretty day. Don't be depressed. Oh, thank you. All right, next. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. But it works with the mind-body embodiment, and then evidence to give neuromaps the information.
Yes,
So,
yeah, and I've heard you talk about this, and this is a big part of what I do in my work, is you've got to begin to become aware of what's actually happening within myself, and then begin to feel, sensing, feeling, tuning in to allow that neurochemical, electromagnetic, biochemical shift to begin to happen. And until we've ignited that, we're not really tapping in to leverage to create cellular change.
that's
So
right.
thinking like, oh, it'll all be okay, or oh, I'm wealthy, or I'm healthy and it's okay, and just
It doesn't work. Yeah.
if we don't actually connect within the body, we're not accessing where that switch is, where we can really ignite
It has to
change.
be embodied, because when you
It
embody
has
it,
to be embodied.
you get a
Yeah.
felt meaning when you embody. So if I say, I'm going to hit you over the head with a bat, that's symbolic. But after I hit you, that's the felt meaning of being hit over the head. You got biological feedback.
Information.
So that's the idea. And with the getting back to the type 2 diabetes paradigm, okay, so everybody or many people in your family, the thing to consider also is that families eat the same food, they're in the same environment, the same beliefs. So psychoneurobiologically, they're developing that process. But then even more, I tell them, okay, now who is an outlier in your family? Who died of something else other than diabetes? That person is an outlier. They got out of the fishbowl. Look at the behavior of that person and you're going to see that it's different. The belief systems and everything else is different in that person. Then we begin to emulate that person. And
Mhm.
then epigenetic things start happening.
Yes, we're affecting the cell, we're affecting the gene expression, we're affecting all of our physiology, digestion,
Everything.
immunology. Um, so what would be the best way to then activate that? To how do I get into, how do I get to the down deep where that lever is to ignite that change and create a physiologic effect?
That's a great question. And the idea is that, as you said, you can't do it intellectually. That means we're on beta waves. We're talking now, beta waves, not going to go in. But what I do is I call it going to the theater of change. And the theater of change is a technique that I use. First, you do relaxation, but that's not enough. And then a contemplative state. So you can go into close to theta waves and things like that that make you very, very open to information. Then in that theater, you reconstruct your play because you are the creator of your play. You are the director, and you assign characters, and all the culture editors told you how to live it. You change the script, and there you do a process that I developed so you can actually begin to make changes and embody the changes. But it's not enough. You have to live it out so that the brain gets information to create new neural maps. So I'll give you an
And live
example.
it out, you mean not just the imagery of it, but you make choices in your life and take some actions.
Yes, yes. So for example, let's say that somebody has a problem with shame, and shame is one of the three archetypal ones that I talk about. So shame is inflammatory. It's very, as you know, inflammation causes everything. So that person has a shaming wound. All right, so we go to the techniques and you go to the theater of change, and then the person experiences the first time they had that shame and they embody it so they can have a signature for it. So this is what shame feels like. And these are the people that did this to me. Okay, now,
Yeah,
so what
you've got to go into it first. And actually, that's a big thing I found in my work, that if I can bring them into just witnessing the energy of what's underneath their illness or underneath their chronic pain, that just touching into it allows it already to begin to move.
that's right, because you have to have a grounding, an embodied grounding before you can change it.
Yeah.
So then you go there, and what I found is that I believe clinically, I've been able to show we're going to be able to work on this immunologically in Poland, but honor is anti-inflammatory.
Okay.
Honor is the antidote for shame. So then what they do is they go and I've treated hundreds of fibromyalgics. Not one did not have a shaming wound.
Yep.
Very much.
Same with me. Yeah,
So
it's a universal.
it really is, and so it's inflammation. So okay, so they go there, they play out. My mother did this or whatever. Okay, you embody it. You know how you know the signature of it. Okay, now you go to your archives of honor. When were you honorable in your life? Not related to that. Just when were you honorable in your life? And the psychoneurobiology is there. When you bring the memory, the whole psychoneurobiology comes out, not just the cognition. So let's say, okay, I'll give you an example of a patient, so it'll be easiest. Okay, this person um, was shamed when he was a child, and usually the illness comes when things are going well, because you don't have a right or you don't have the merit.
Yes. Yes.
So he was shamed as a child because his father was the town drunk, and he bet somebody that the father bet that he could eat glass. So of course he died of internal hemorrhaging. But he was he's the son of the guy who the drunk who thought he could eat. He grew up with that. So
Uh,
then everything's fine. But then look at the process. How interesting. He becomes very wealthy, and then as he's very wealthy, he loves to play the Cuban drums. And guess what happens? He gets arthritis on his left hand and he can't play the drums.
yep.
So inflammation, just right there.
Yep.
So we did the technique. So he goes there and he remembers well, but when he was told that his father was killed or died, and all the shame, and he felt that all over. And actually, you do feel the inflammation. I mean, you feel
Yep.
the
You
redness,
bring it up. You got to bring it up to come out.
and by memory. So then he couldn't figure out what was on, and then we did this on the deep level of contemplation. So finally he finds, because if you're shamed, it's hard for you to find honor in your history. But we kept working on it, and he found that when he was in the 6th grade, he was a big guy, and this bully comes over to hit the little boy, and he stands up and he protects the little guy. And he said, I didn't realize that that was honor. All of a sudden, he feels it all over his body. He embodies it, and he comes out. And not every time it happens like this. As you know, with doctors, we like to have the best, but this is what happened. When he came out, you could feel the hotness of the inflammation. The hotness was gone. 6 hours later, the pain was gone and it never came back. But what he had to do is that for the next 6 weeks, so you can create neuromaps, act honorably for the next 6 weeks. Have one honorable behavior every day.
You're doing a cellular rewrite.
That's right.
I just want to insert, this is exactly how I healed myself from a really severe autoimmune illness that I had to keep rewriting and remind myself every day, no, I'm powerfully healthy and strong, and go into the serenity of anchoring in a new consciousness and anchoring in, I'm at ease in my body, to rewrite. Every time the pain would come up, I'd go into the rewrite. But your way of describing it is a great way for people to understand a structure for how to do this rewrite.
And then you live it, and as you live it, your neuromaps grow by repetition. So if you repeat and repeat and repeat, embodied, not in your head, embodied, you create neuromaps. Within 6 weeks, you have new neuromaps that are just saying, yeah, I'm worthy of this. And if your audience wants to try this out, you do the meditation, you get relaxed, and then what you do is, after you get relaxed, you watch things happen and you observe them without any interpretation, and you go into contemplative. And I explained that and I have some free videos out that you can see it.
Oh, good. Where can they find you? Because I know people will want to tune in.
YouTube. My channel is Dr. Mario Martinez YouTube, and I have over 130 videos there that people can watch and see. But you do that, and then you ask yourself, okay, let me go to the theater of change. I make so much money. All right, I make $50,000 a year. Okay, now, and this is why I pay my bills and I do this. Now I want to make 10 times as much. Okay, now I'm making $500,000 a year. And when you start living it out, you're going to feel stress around your body, because it's challenging the horizons of whatever it is that you are. And you have to do it. And then you see yourself buying things and that, or whatever you want. And then self-esteem is extremely important. If self-esteem is not there, it doesn't work. Because all the reruns that you do, self-esteem is like the default mode. It says, no, unworthy. So before we do anything, we teach people self-esteem.
Okay.
And the way that I teach that is I break self-esteem, again, psychoneurobiologically, I break self-esteem into 3 parts. Valuation self-esteem, which is the one that says, I am worthy enough to be able to enjoy good things in life without getting sick or without sabotaging them.
Okay.
That's one. The other one is competence. How good am I at what I do? Okay. And the third that nobody talks about is affiliation. The people that you bring in to share your good fortune and to share your pain and to share your vicissitudes in life. So what I try to do is I try to take very complex neuropsychological processes and make them real simple. So this is how they go up. You can bring up valuation, self-esteem, very simple. You keep self-caring commitments, it goes up. You break self-caring commitments, it goes down.
This is for the valuation.
For the valuation.
All right. So this is the valuation, self-esteem. I'm worthy of having a wonderful life. So to instill this, I make my commitments and keep them. I'm good with my word. I'm in integrity. So
that's right.
The choice to develop that would be to be in integrity.
That's right, with action. But as a doctor, you would know that cultures support victimhood and illness. So for example, people don't support you doing things for yourself. Let's say you and I are friends, and they'll say, let's go to the mall. And you say, no, look, I want to meditate. Meditate another time. It's okay. And they push. But if you tell me you have a migraine, immediately my compassion comes out. What can I do? How can I help you?
Yes.
And yes. The brain is listening. Oh, I have a passport to get what I want if I get sick.
Yeah.
So
it serves many purposes that we aren't aware of.
That's right. So then when you say no, you have to give people permission to not like it. When you keep self-caring.
Sure.
No, look, I'm gonna sit and read. No, go sit. No, no, I'm gonna sit and read. No, I'm gonna sit and read, and give them permission to not like it and let it go. It
Yep.
goes up that way.
The co-authors.
Your co-authors, that's right. You're a biocognitive person now.
So then for the competence, which is competence, self-esteem, I'm good at what I do, I believe in myself, the action would be what?
Well, it goes up if you increase in your areas of passion, your increased knowledge. In your case, it would be a doctor, wife, mother. You increase the competence there. It goes down if you keep it stagnant.
Okay. So learning, developing my abilities.
Learning and constantly going. How can I do this better? Not compulsively, but how can I do this better with the passion that I have for things?
Yeah.
And then increasing selfhood, the value of selfhood. How can I be better at being honest? How can I be better at being a doctor or whatever? Any
Okay.
competence brings it up. No learning in those areas brings it down.
Okay. And then affiliation, which I think is an interesting, unique look at this. I haven't really thought of it that way before with self-esteem is who I affiliate with. I'm worthy of these people in this community. So what are the actions we would do there?
Okay, there, and this is for teenagers, it's really important, is the quality of people that you choose to be with, not the quantity.
Yeah.
It goes up when you increase the quality and the rituals with those people. It goes down when you increase the quantity and no rituals with those people.
I think this is a ding, 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 ding for all of us. And especially with like the younger generation who are not taught about this, where,
No.
oh my gosh, how many relationships are we in that aren't the A+ relationship where I'm loved, I'm valued, I'm really seen in this relationship. But then we try to nurture the ones where we're not and fix the ones where we're not, improve ourselves because we're more on the agenda of I'm not worthy, let me prove myself. Oh, you're a perfect best friend for me because you're always going to tell me I'm not enough. Or maybe the way we engage with our mother or a relationship that's maybe kind of like abusive, trying to make ourselves seen in their eyes versus like, let that relationship be as it is. And let's put time into a different kind of relationship.
Yes, and
Major point.
the psychoneurobiology of it is very interesting because you look for quality people
Yeah.
and you create rituals, which is one of the causes of health, breaking bread, doing things together. But you cultivate the ability to admire without envy. That's and admiration without envy increases oxytocin. With envy, it doesn't.
Yeah. That's a big, big, big for me. Ding, 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 ding. Like how many times with that third issue of self-esteem, oh, I don't value myself I'm not worthy of these people, or you put people above you, that if you are aware, oh, I feel jealous, oh, this person has this
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
don't, that it could be a signal for me to say, oh, wait, how can I appreciate that?
And
Let celebrate that I'm seeing this trait, which means it's a trait in myself somewhere, and admire without envy and choose the action of practicing. Let me just admire and let this in without needing to buy into the, I don't have it, just admire it.
That's right, because the evolutionary component of it is we admire laudable behavior so we can imitate it. And what happens is that oxytocin comes out to bond. But if you don't have that, then you don't admire, and if you don't admire, you don't grow. I'll
Yep.
give you an example. Dr. Solomon, when he called it psychoimmunology, that's what it was at the time. Then 10 years later, Bob Ader found that the nervous system was also related, and he called it psychoneuroimmunology. So I called George and I said, what do you think of the name? And he says, it's brilliant. I love it. Admiration without envy. Someone else would have said, oh, who does he think he is, changing my this and that. Beautiful. Admiration without envy. He was excited about that. He said, it's better than my term.
Well, and you've shown that if you decide to be that person who says yes and admiration without envy, that's the centenarian. That's everything you found is like,
That's
okay,
right.
20% is genetics, but what's the 80%? The 80% is choosing to be the guy who says, bravo, you improved upon the thing I did. Good for you.
That's right.
That actually makes us live longer and live healthier.
And all these things that I'm talking about are anti-aging and prolonging longevity because this all comes from centenarians. Another example of the causes of health that I found from George Solomon called it that he called it healthy narcissism. They're healthy narcissists. And the reason is that they're inclusive in their narcissism. And I'll give you another example, because, the stories are the best way to get information out. I went to Cuba to study centenarians. So there was a 102-year-old man, and they gave him a party, because centenarians are always treated like superstars. They gave him a party, and there was these other women all around. And he comes up to me and he said, "Have you noticed how the women are looking at me? They're all in love with me."
Yeah. Celebrate yourself.
Celebrate. But look how he includes them. He said, "Have you noticed how beautiful they are?"
Yeah.
Inclusive narcissism.
Celebrate yourself. Celebrate yourself and others.
A sociopath would say, "Look how I can manipulate these beautiful women that love me."
Yeah.
So that's centenarian consciousness. And they don't have any problems. A 101-year-old woman who was beautiful. I said, "You're beautiful." And she said, "Thank you. I know I've always been beautiful. Ever since I was a little girl, I was beautiful." So refreshing.
Willingness to celebrate myself is obviously going to help me live longer, and in a loving, inclusive way it calls other people into celebrating their greatness.
That's right, because gratitude has a very powerful psychoneurobiology. But if you don't accept it, then you're losing all that possibility of the good gene expression.
Well, we just have another minute. I want to make sure people can find you. You're at biocognitive.com. You're at Dr. Mario Martinez on YouTube. Is there any other thing they should maybe go to tune into?
I'm not a good marketer, so I forgot to tell you, I have 2 best-selling books.
Yeah.
The MindBody Code and the MindBody Self, and they can get them at Amazon. And there I explain in detail, I give a lot of techniques and also tremendous bibliography for people that want to go deeper into the science. And a glossary of the new terms. So it's the MindBody Code and the MindBody Self are really good books. I spent a lot of time trying to make it clear and workable. And thank you for your work, because you do outstanding work.
Thank you. It's very aligned with what you're doing. And it's awesome to meet people who have like a different angle on it with a lot of the science and the studies and things. So people can follow you on YouTube. I think tuning into what you're doing there is super fun, easy. The books are great, MindBody Code and MindBody Self, if you want to like get a good read and dig into more of this. And would you also back with what you said, the 3 archetypal wounds? And I want to see if that kind of matches up with what I found, but the shame was one.
Yes.
And how do you look at the other 2?
Well, we have, and this is how cultures try to keep you within the pale. They can abandon you, they can shame you, or they can betray you. And the 3 antidotes that you have to live out: for abandonment is commitment to yourself, for shame is honor to yourself, and for betrayal is loyalty to yourself. And then they have to live out, and they have to be embodied, and you begin to change the psychoneurobiology of the possible damage that it's doing.
You are awesome and
Thank
beautiful and lovely, and I'm so glad we met.
It's my pleasure. So am I. Let's stay in touch, because I'm sure there are a lot of things we could do together. So,
yes. All right.
And say hello to the other Mario.
Oh, I will. Okay.
Bye-bye.
So for everyone listening, thank you for being here. Lots of love, and I will see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.